Admiral Keltor paced the length of the observation deck, his four arms clasped behind his back in what his species considered a gesture of extreme agitation. The massive view screen displayed the small blue planet that had been the subject of so much debate in the Galactic Council. "You're telling me," he rumbled, glaring at his intelligence officer, "that we've been observing them for 3 centuries, and nobody thought to mention this particular quirk?" Lieutenant Tren lowered her eyes. The information was deemed irrelevant. "Admiral, the humans were classified as a Class C civilization, pre-FTL, limited to their own solar system, technologically immature." "Irrelevant?" Keltor's voice rose dangerously. "They've destroyed our forward base on their moon, with primitive chemical rockets." The view screen shifted to show the smoking ruins of what had been the Imperium's secret observation post. Established decades ago, it had been considered perfectly safe, hidden within a crater on the dark side of Earth's moon. No pre-FTL species had ever detected such an installation before. "We underestimated them," Tren admitted. "The attack pattern was unlike anything in our tactical databases." "Because they weren't supposed to have tactical databases," Keltor slammed one of his fists onto the console. "They were supposed to be decades away from discovering us. What happened?" General Mox, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. "We may have made an error in our assessment, Admiral. Humans don't fight like any other species we've encountered." "Explain," Keltor demanded. "Most intelligent species develop along similar lines," Mox began, pulling up comparative charts. "As they advance technologically, they become more risk-averse. Combat becomes strategic, remote, calculated. War becomes a series of logical moves, like the board games all sentient species eventually develop. And humans don't follow this pattern? No, sir. Humans..." Mox seemed to search for the right words. "Humans get angry." The view screen shifted again, showing historical footage from Earth's many conflicts. Soldiers charging across open fields towards certain death. Warriors fighting hand-to-hand despite having projectile weapons. Combatants continuing to fight, despite grievous injuries. "They don't calculate odds the way we do," Mox continued. "When threatened, they sometimes choose the tactically inferior option simply because it's unexpected. They embrace chaos. They'll sacrifice themselves not just for strategic advantage, but for something they call honor." Keltor's secondary eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of disbelief. "That's primitive, irrational." "Perhaps," Tren interjected, "but effective. Our tactical computers couldn't predict their assault, because it didn't make logical sense. They used a civilian mining vessel packed with explosives. The crew knew they wouldn't survive." "Suicide tactics?" Keltor hissed. "That's forbidden by every civilized convention." "They don't know about our conventions," Mox said quietly. "And now they know about us." The observation deck fell silent as the implications settled over the officers. Humanity wasn't supposed to discover the wider galactic community this way, through conflict, through battle. The protocols for first contact involved careful diplomatic preparation, cultural exchange programs, gradual technological sharing. "How did they even find the base?" Keltor finally asked. "That's the most troubling part," Tren replied, manipulating the console to show a series of Earth transmissions. "They weren't looking for us specifically. They've been sending probes to their moon for decades, mapping it thoroughly. It was only a matter of time before they found something. And when they did," Mox added grimly, "they didn't hesitate. No diplomatic overtures, no attempts at communication. They saw an alien structure and immediately assembled an attack force." Keltor turned to the viewport, staring at the seemingly innocent blue planet. "What's their response capability? Could they reach our main fleet?" "Not with their current technology," Tren assured him. "But they've recovered debris from our base. Our scientists estimate they could reverse engineer some of our basic systems within a decade." "A decade," Keltor repeated numbly. "We have a decade before a species that doesn't understand the concept of tactical retreat gets access to interplanetary weapons." "There is one option," Mox said carefully. "The Council has authorized a first strike protocol for exactly this scenario. We could eliminate the threat now, while they're still confined to their system." Keltor stared at the planet, contemplating genocide with a heavy heart. Around him, the bridge crew awaited his command. "No," Keltor said finally, turning away from the viewport. We are not exterminators. Prepare a diplomatic vessel. If they want to meet the galaxy, we'll give them a proper introduction. General Mox's facial ridges darkened with concern. Admiral, with all due respect, the humans have already demonstrated hostile intent. Diplomatic outreach at this juncture carries significant risk. So does annihilation, Keltor countered. These humans have something we've never encountered before. This reckless determination. I want to understand it before we consider more drastic measures. Lieutenant Tren nervously cleared her throat. Sir, there's something else you should know. We've intercepted their communications since the attack. They're celebrating. The view screen flickered to display news broadcasts from around Earth. Crowds gathered in city centers, waving flags, military personnel receiving commendations. The crew of the sacrificial mining vessel being hailed as heroes, their names etched into monuments. They're unified, Mox observed with professional interest. The attack on our base has brought their fractious nations together. They believe they've struck a blow against potential invaders. And they're not wrong, Keltor murmured. We were watching them without their knowledge or consent. From their perspective, we were the aggressors. Tren manipulated the controls, bringing up another set of images, military installations across Earth buzzing with activity, new satellites being hastily launched, defense systems being fortified. They're preparing for retaliation, she explained. They expect us to counterattack, and they're mobilizing accordingly. Keltor's secondary eyes narrowed. And yet they attacked anyway, knowing they were technologically outmatched, knowing we could obliterate them from orbit? That's what I've been trying to explain about humans, Mox said. They don't always make the logical choice. Sometimes they simply rage against the inevitable. The Admiral's gaze returned to the view screen, watching Earth's military preparations with newfound respect. How do their internal conflicts typically resolve? Do they have established surrender protocols? Tren and Mox exchanged uncomfortable glances before Tren answered. Their wars typically end one of three ways. Complete destruction of one side's ability to fight, negotiated settlement after massive casualties, or… She hesitated. Or what, Lieutenant? Or the complete absorption of the defeated culture by the victors. Throughout their history, humans have shown a pattern of eliminating perceived existential threats entirely. The implications hung heavy in the air. If humans perceived the Imperium as an existential threat, and they clearly did, they wouldn't stop until they had eliminated that threat completely. They would fight beyond rational limits, beyond logical surrender points. We need to speak with them, Keltor decided. Not just as a tactical maneuver, but because we need to understand this species before they spread beyond their cradle world. The Admiral activated the ship-wide communication system. All personnel, prepare for first contact protocols. We'll position ourselves in a high Earth orbit, visible, but non-threatening. Lieutenant Tren, prepare a comprehensive communication package in all human languages. General Mox, I want a detailed analysis of human military capabilities, not just their technology, but their tactics, their leadership structures, their morale systems. As his officers hurried to comply, Keltor studied the planet with new eyes. The Imperium had encountered thousands of species over its long history, but none quite like this one. Most races, when confronted with a technologically superior force, either surrendered or retreated. Humans, it seemed, did neither. And one more thing, he added as his officers reached the door. I want every scrap of information we have on human psychology. What motivates them? What do they fear? What do they love? He paused. We need to understand what makes them fight, and what might make them stop. Captain Jack Reynolds stared at the massive alien vessel now hovering in Earth's orbit, visible even in daylight as a dark spot against the blue sky. The hastily assembled United Earth Defense Council had been in emergency session for 48 hours straight since the ship had appeared. So they've responded to our message? He asked, turning to Dr. Eliza Morris, the Council's chief xenolinguist. Yes and no, Eliza replied, pushing her glasses up her nose. They've acknowledged receipt and have sent what appears to be a standardized first contact package, mathematical sequences, basic physical constants, simple pictograms, standard SETI stuff. But they're being cautious. They know we destroyed Their moon base. General Thompson pounded his fist on the conference table. Damn right we did. And we'll do the same to that monstrosity if they make one wrong move. Jack studied the tactical display. Earth's combined military forces, hastily unified under the emergency protocols, had every weapon aimed at the alien vessel. Nuclear missiles, kinetic projectiles, even the experimental particle beam that had never been successfully tested. It was an impressive show of force, but Jack harbored no illusions about their chances if the aliens decided to attack. What about the debris analysis? He asked, turning to Dr. Kenji Yamamoto, who headed the research team examining the recovered alien technology. Kenji looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes from sleepless nights. It's beyond anything we've ever seen, Captain. Their metallurgy alone is centuries ahead of ours. The computational systems use principles we barely understand. But we're making progress, especially with their propulsion systems. How long until we can reproduce any of it? Years, at least, Kenji admitted. Unless... He hesitated. Unless what, Doctor? Unless we can get more samples. Complete systems, not just debris. The moon base was mostly destroyed in the explosion. What we really need is to capture that ship, General Thompson finished, his eyes gleaming with ambition. Or at least board it. Jack shook his head. We're not starting an interstellar war, General. Not until we know what we're dealing with. They started it, Thompson protested. Spying on us from our own moon. And we responded, Jack pointed. Out. Decisively. Now we need to understand the situation before we escalate further. The debate was interrupted by a junior officer rushing into the room. Sirs, ma'am, the alien vessel is broadcasting again. But this time, it's in English. The main screen activated, showing a creature unlike anything they had seen before. Four-armed, with iridescent scales and two sets of eyes, one above the other. Despite its alien appearance, its posture conveyed a universal language. Authority. People of Earth, the creature began, its mouth movements not quite syncing with the words. I am Admiral Keltor of the Galactic Imperium. We regret the manner of our introduction. Our observation post was established to monitor your development, not to threaten your sovereignty. The room fell silent as the message continued. You have demonstrated remarkable courage in defending what you perceived as an invasion of your territory. We respect your martial capabilities and your determination. But there is much you do not understand about the wider galaxy. We propose a diplomatic exchange, representatives from your world and ours, meeting to establish peaceful relations. General Thompson scoffed. It's a trap. They want hostages. Or they genuinely want to talk, Eliza countered. Think about it. If they wanted to destroy us, why announce themselves? Why not just attack from beyond our sensor range? Because they're worried about what we'll do next, Jack said quietly, all eyes turning to him. They've seen what we're capable of, how we fight, and it concerns them. The message from Admiral Keltor concluded with coordinates for a proposed meeting site. Neutral territory on the far side of Earth's moon, away from both the destroyed base and any human installations. We should accept, Jack said decisively. But we go in prepared for anything. Dr. Morris for communication, Dr. Yamamoto for technical analysis, military personnel for security, and myself as Earth's representative. Why you? Thompson demanded. Jack's eyes hardened. Because I led the mission that destroyed their base. I know how they'll see us, as warriors who don't back down. And right now, that's the image we need to project. The council debated for hours, but ultimately, the decision was made. Humanity would meet the aliens, not with open arms, but with cautious respect and weapons close at hand. 3 days later, Jack found himself aboard a military shuttle, approaching the meeting site. The alien vessel, much smaller than the mothership in orbit, had already landed, its sleek design making their own craft look crude by comparison. Remember, he told his team as they prepared to disembark, we're diplomats first, soldiers second. But keep your eyes open. Anything seems off. We abort and return to Earth immediately. The shuttle door opened, revealing the airless lunar landscape. Ahead, the alien craft's hatch was also opening. Jack took a deep breath inside his spacesuit, then stepped forward to make history. The meeting chamber constructed by the aliens was nothing short of miraculous. Within hours, they had erected a pressurized dome on the lunar surface, complete with atmospheric controls that perfectly replicated Earth conditions on one side and what Jack assumed were Imperium standard conditions on the other, separated by a transparent barrier. Admiral Keltor stood on the alien side, flanked by several officers, including one Jack recognized from the broadcast, the four-armed general whose name he now knew was Mox. On the human side, Jack led his small delegation, trying not to appear overawed by the technology surrounding them. "Captain Reynolds," Keltor began, his words translated by a small device that floated in the air between them. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." "Thank you for asking nicely this time," Jack replied, unable to keep a slight edge from his voice. "Rather than establishing secret bases on our moon." Keltor's upper eyes blinked rapidly. "A regrettable miscalculation on our part. The Imperium has standard protocols for monitoring pre-FTL civilizations. We did not anticipate your reaction." "You didn't think we'd defend ourselves?" General Thompson asked incredulously. "We didn't think you'd find us," Mox interjected. "No other species at your technological level has demonstrated such aggressive exploration of their planetary satellite." Dr. Morris stepped forward. "Perhaps we could begin by establishing some understanding of our respective cultures? There seems to be a fundamental disconnect in how we perceive each other." Keltor gestured agreement. "Indeed. We have observed your species for some time, but clearly we have missed critical elements of human psychology." What followed was a crash course in comparative xenopsychology. The aliens explained their society, a vast imperium spanning thousands of worlds, governed by complex hierarchies and rigid protocols. War was rare, conducted through precise, calculated engagements with minimal casualties. Surrender was a logical choice when defeat became mathematically inevitable. In return, the humans provided a brutally honest assessment of Earth's history, the endless conflicts, the refusal to surrender even in the face of overwhelming odds, the concept of victory or death that had shaped so many human cultures. "Your historical figure, Winston Churchill," Keltor noted, "declared that you would never surrender. This concept is difficult for us to process. Surrender is simply a strategic decision when victory becomes impossible." Jack shook his head. "Not for us. Throughout our history, we've fought on when logic said we should give up. Sometimes we've won against impossible odds because of it. And sometimes you've suffered catastrophic losses," Mox pointed out. "Your species seems willing to accept extraordinary casualties for abstract concepts like freedom or honor." "We fight for what we believe in," Dr. Morris explained. "It's not always logical, but it's who we are." As the discussions continued, Jack noticed the aliens becoming increasingly troubled. They conferred among themselves in their own language, their gestures becoming more animated. Finally, Keltor addressed the human delegation again. "Captain Reynolds, we must be direct. Your species represents a unique challenge to galactic stability. Your combat philosophies, your willingness to employ suicide tactics, your refusal to surrender, these traits make you unpredictable in ways that concern the Imperium greatly." "Are you threatening us?" General Thompson demanded, hand moving subtly toward his sidearm. "No," Keltor said quickly. "Quite the opposite. We are reassessing our approach to Earth. The standard protocols clearly do not apply in your case." Jack leaned forward. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means," Mox answered, "that we're considering offering Earth membership in the Imperium immediately, rather than waiting for you to develop FTL capabilities independently." The human delegation exchanged shocked glances. This was far beyond what they had expected from the meeting. "Why would you do that?" Jack asked cautiously. Keltor's four arms made a complex gesture that the translator didn't interpret. "Because, Captain Reynolds, the galaxy is not always a peaceful place. And, having witnessed how humans fight, perhaps it would be better to have you as allies than as potential adversaries." The revelation that the galaxy was not the utopian federation humans had imagined in their science fiction came as a shock to Earth's leadership. Admiral Keltor's briefing painted a complex picture of interstellar politics. While the Imperium controlled vast swathes of the galaxy, they were not unopposed. Other powers existed, some openly hostile, others maintaining uneasy truces. The Vrex Collective has been expanding along our eastern border for centuries, Keltor explained, manipulating a three-dimensional star map that hovered between the negotiating parties. They're technologically advanced, highly aggressive, and operate with a hive mind consciousness that makes them exceptionally coordinated in combat. Jack studied the map with a strategist's eye. And Earth is positioned here, Mox highlighted, a small system near the periphery of Imperium space. You're currently isolated, but if you developed FTL travel independently, you would eventually expand into this region, directly between Imperium core worlds and the advancing Vrex frontier. General Thompson's eyes narrowed. So you need us as a buffer state. That's one perspective, Keltor acknowledged, but not the complete picture. The Vrex are unlike any adversary the Imperium has faced. Their hive mind makes them immune to our psychological warfare, and their combat doctrine is efficiently ruthless. Dr. Yamamoto, who had been quietly analyzing the alien technology throughout the meeting, spoke up. What exactly are you asking of us? You've made it clear you find our fighting methods disturbing. Now you want to use those same methods against your enemies? An uncomfortable silence fell over the alien delegation. Finally, Keltor spoke, his translator rendering his words with clinical precision. We are offering Earth an accelerated path to galactic citizenship, with all the technological benefits that entails. FTL travel, clean energy, medical advances that would eliminate most human diseases. In exchange, we ask for military cooperation against threats to galactic stability. You want human soldiers? Jack stated flatly. We want human military thinking, Mox corrected. Your unpredictability. Your willingness to take risks that our tactical computers would never calculate as worthwhile. Your, what's the word? Grit. The implications hung heavy in the air. Humanity, barely united by the shock of alien contact, was being offered the stars, in exchange for becoming the Imperium's shock troops. Dr. Morris looked troubled. If we refuse, then we continue as planned, Keltor said smoothly. We establish diplomatic relations. We monitor your development. When you achieve FTL travel independently, likely within the next century based on your current rate of advancement, you join the galactic community under standard protocols, but without the immediate technological uplift, Thompson noted. Correct. And by then, the strategic situation may have evolved considerably. Jack shared a glance with his team. They had come prepared for threats, for demands, even for combat, not for a recruitment pitch. We need to consult with Earth's leadership, Jack said finally. This is far beyond the scope of our authorized negotiations. Keltor made a gesture of agreement. Of course. But understand, this offer comes with certain time constraints. The Vrex do not stand still, and neither does galactic politics. As the human delegation prepared to return to their shuttle, General Mox approached Jack privately, their translator devices creating a bubble of mutual comprehension. Captain Reynolds, the alien general said quietly, there's something Admiral Keltor is not telling you. Something you should know before your species makes its decision, Jack tensed. I'm listening. The Vrex have already encountered humans, Mox revealed. A small exploratory vessel of theirs breached your outer solar system 2 of your years ago. They observed your broadcasts, your military exercises. They saw the same thing we did, a species that fights like none other in the galaxy. And they were not intrigued, as we were. They were alarmed. In their collective consciousness, humanity represents a chaos factor they cannot tolerate. If they reach your world before you have our protection... Mox left the implication hanging. Jack felt a chill despite the controlled temperature of his spacesuit. You're saying they would eliminate us? I'm saying they would try, Mox replied. And given what I've seen of humans, I'm not certain who would win. But the conflict would be devastating for both sides. As Jack boarded the shuttle to return to Earth, his mind raced with possibilities. Humanity stood at a crossroads. Accelerated, advancement as the Imperium's warriors, or a slower path that might lead to conflict with the mysterious Vrex. Either way, the galaxy would never be the same. Humans were coming, and they were bringing their unique way of fighting with them. 6 months after the lunar meeting, Earth had changed dramatically. The knowledge that humanity was not alone in the universe had transformed society in ways both profound and mundane. Religious institutions grappled with the theological implications. Scientists worked feverishly to understand the limited technical data the Imperium had shared. Military strategists ran endless simulations of potential interstellar conflicts, and Jack Reynolds found himself in command of the newly formed Earth Defense Force, a unified military organization drawn from the best soldiers of every nation. The Vreks have penetrated deeper into Sector 7, General Thompson reported, highlighting an area of the star map that now dominated the EDF headquarters. The Imperium's defensive line is holding, but their casualty reports are concerning. Jack nodded grimly. The Imperium had been true to their word about the threat, providing regular intelligence briefings about the ongoing conflict. What they hadn't shared, at least not yet, was the advanced technology they had promised. Earth remained dependent on its own primitive spacecraft, albeit with some minor technical improvements suggested by Imperium advisors. "And our training program?" Jack asked, turning to Commander Wei, who oversaw the integration of human military tactics with Imperium strategic doctrine. "Proceeding as planned," Wei replied. "The Imperium military attaches are disturbed by some of our historical battle analyses, but they're adapting. They've particularly focused on guerrilla warfare concepts and asymmetric engagement strategies. They think we're barbarians," Thompson muttered. "They think we're effective," Wei corrected. "There's a difference. Their entire military doctrine is built around minimizing casualties and maximizing strategic advantage. The idea of sacrificing forces for tactical gains is foreign to them. Because they've never had to," Jack pointed out. "Their technological advantage has meant they've always been able to fight from a position of strength." The meeting was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Morris, who had been working closely with the Imperium's diplomatic corps. "We have a problem," she announced without preamble. "The Vreks have stepped up their information warfare. They're broadcasting messages to Earth, bypassing Imperium communication channels." Jack frowned. "What kind of messages?" "Warnings, primarily. They're claiming the Imperium intends to use humanity as cannon fodder in their war, that we're being manipulated into serving as disposable shock troops." "Are we?" Thompson asked bluntly, looking at Jack. It was the question that had haunted Earth's leadership since the initial offer. The Imperium's promises of technological advancement had come with increasingly specific requests for military cooperation. Training exchanges, tactical consultations, strategic planning for hypothetical conflicts that seemed less hypothetical with each passing day. "We don't know," Jack admitted. "But what's the alternative? Reject the Imperium's protection and face the Vreks alone when they eventually reach us? They've made their intentions clear." "So we're choosing the devil we know," Wei said quietly. "We're choosing the path with the highest probability of survival," Jack corrected. "For now, that means continuing to work with the Imperium while building our own capabilities as quickly as possible." The discussion was cut short by alarms blaring throughout the facility. A junior officer rushed in, his face pale. "Sir, we're detecting multiple unknown craft entering the solar system. They've bypassed our outer sensor network." "Imperium reinforcements?" Thompson suggested, already knowing the answer. "Negative, sir. The Imperium flagship is moving to intercept, but they're outnumbered, and the unknown vessels are accelerating toward Earth." Jack felt a cold certainty settle over him. "It's the Vreks. They've decided to eliminate the threat we represent before we can fully ally with the Imperium." "But we don't have the weapons to fight an interstellar force," Wei protested. "No," Jack agreed, "but we have something they're not expecting." He turned to the communications officer. "Get me Admiral Keltor immediately, and initiate Protocol Omega." Protocol Omega had been developed in secret, without the Imperium's knowledge, a contingency plan for exactly this scenario. If advanced alien forces targeted Earth directly, humanity would respond not with their limited space-based weapons, but with their greatest strength: unpredictability. As the Vreks fleet approached, they would find not a helpless pre-FTL civilization, but a planet that had been preparing for war since the moment they learned they weren't alone in the universe. A planet full of beings who had spent their entire evolutionary history fighting, first against nature, then against each other, and now, against the stars themselves. "Send the message to all EDF units," Jack ordered. Operation Hornet's Nest is now active. The Vreks were about to learn why you never let humans fight. And now, they would know. Admiral Keltor watched in stunned silence as the tactical display updated. The Vreks attack force, 12 capital ships and their escorts, had bypassed the Imperium's defensive screen through a previously unknown spatial anomaly. They were now on a direct course for Earth, clearly intending to eliminate humanity before they could become a threat. "We can intercept them," General Mox stated. "But not all of them. Some will reach the planet, and Earth has no effective planetary defenses," Keltor said grimly. "They're still decades away from developing orbital weapons platforms." The communication system chimed urgently. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Captain Reynolds." Jack's face appeared on the screen, looking not panicked but grimly determined. "Admiral, I assume you're tracking the Vreks fleet?" "Yes, Captain. We're moving to intercept, but—" "Don't," Jack interrupted. "Keep your forces at a safe distance. We'll handle the Vreks." Keltor's forearms gestured in confusion. "Captain Reynolds, I don't think you understand the situation. These are advanced warships with technology far beyond Earth's capabilities." "Oh, we understand perfectly," Jack replied with a tight smile. "We've been preparing for this possibility since our first meeting. Protocol Omega is now in effect." Before Keltor could inquire further, the transmission ended. The Admiral turned to his tactical officer. "What is Protocol Omega? Was this in our briefings on human military doctrine?" "No, sir," the officer replied, scanning through data files. "This appears to be something they developed independently. On the tactical display, the Vreks fleet continued its approach toward Earth. The Imperium vessels held position as ordered, their commanders confused but obedient. And then, something unexpected happened. Thousands of small objects began launching from Earth's surface. Primitive chemical rockets, satellites, even retrofitted civilian spacecraft. They weren't moving to intercept the Vreks fleet directly, but instead, spreading out in seemingly random patterns throughout near-Earth space. "What are they doing?" Mox wondered aloud. "Those aren't weapons platforms." "No," Keltor agreed. "They're—" His voice trailed off as realization dawned. "They're a distraction." The Vreks fleet, confronted with thousands of small objects that their sensors couldn't immediately identify, did exactly what their tactical doctrine demanded. They divided their forces to investigate multiple potential threats simultaneously. Their hive-mind consciousness, usually an advantage in combat, now worked against them as they attempted to process too many variables at once. And that's when the real attack began. Earth's nuclear missile silos, which had been aimed at each other for decades during what humans called the Cold War, simultaneously launched their payloads, not at the surface of the planet, but upward, toward the now dispersed Vreks fleet. At the same time, orbital platforms that the Imperium had assumed were civilian satellites revealed themselves to be disguised weapon systems, crude but effective at close range. "They've turned their entire planet into a weapon," Mox whispered, awe and horror mixing in his voice. The Vreks, caught by surprise, found themselves under attack from all directions. Their advanced shields were designed to repel energy weapons and kinetic projectiles of a certain velocity, not the thousands of nuclear warheads now detonating around them. Their formation, broken by the initial distraction, could not reconsolidate quickly enough to mount an effective defense. But the humans weren't finished. As the Vreks ships maneuvered to escape the nuclear firestorm, they found themselves targeted by yet another wave of attacks, missiles launched from submarines hidden beneath Earth's oceans, rising through the atmosphere to strike from below. "They've been holding back," Keltor realized. "All these primitive weapons we dismissed, they kept them, maintained them, even as they pursued peace among themselves." "Not primitive," Mox corrected. "Different. Unexpected. The Vreks combat computers can't adapt quickly enough because they've never encountered these tactics before." The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the Vreks attack force had been decimated, not by superior technology, but by sheer unpredictability and overwhelming force applied from multiple vectors simultaneously. The few surviving ships retreated through the spatial anomaly, presumably to report back to the collective. When communications with Earth resumed, Captain Reynolds looked exhausted but triumphant. "Protocol Omega was a success," he reported. We've sustained damage to some orbital infrastructure, but ground casualties are minimal. The Virex never got close enough to deploy their main weapons. Captain, Keltor began, choosing his words carefully, the Imperium owes Earth a debt. You've demonstrated capabilities we did not anticipate. That was the point, Admiral, Jack replied. We knew from our first meeting that both you and the Vrex underestimated us, so we let you continue to do so. Every technology you shared, every tactical briefing you provided, we used that information to develop countermeasures you wouldn't expect. You were planning for conflict with the Imperium as well, Mox stated. It wasn't a question. We were planning for all contingencies, Jack corrected. Humanity has learned the hard way not to place all our trust in a single ally or strategy. Keltor's secondary eyes blinked rapidly. So what happens now? Now, Jack said firmly. We renegotiate our relationship with the Imperium. As equals, not as protectorates or convenient shock troops. The Vrex know what humanity is capable of now. And so do you. As the transmission ended, Keltor turned to Mox. Contact the Galactic Council immediately. They need to be informed of what's happened here. And what exactly has happened, Admiral? Mox asked. Keltor stared at the view screen, where Earth continued its peaceful rotation, the devastation, in orbit already being cleared by swarms of human repair vessels. We've witnessed the birth of a new power in the galaxy, he answered quietly, and we've learned a valuable lesson that we'll need to share with every spacefaring civilization. Never let humans fight. Because once they know how to fight you, they will never stop until they win. Throughout the galaxy, the message would soon spread. A warning to some, a reassurance to others. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and they had brought with them something no other species possessed. The indomitable will to triumph against all odds, no matter the cost. This is why you never let humans fight. Now they know.